Че, пойдем в Альфа-Директ, посмотрим. Ай, подожди. Где? Что-то сработало, кстати. Не понял, почему сфейлились? ВА подвинулись. Microsoft подвинулся. Autodesk подвинулся. AMD подвинулся. Так, а почему сфейлились? Написано «Исполнено полностью». Одна? Чебанулся, что ли, одна? Так. Так. Надо сейчас посмотреть отчет. А что, по 14 нельзя сделать? По 14 нельзя сделать. Так, ну ладно, сейчас пока внесем тогда. Так. Четырнадцатого января 21:55. Цена выхода 313. Триста 13,4 это что это? Типа сколько сейчас стоит, да? Да. Чё, блядь? Минус? Стой. Закрепить. Закрепить, блядь, области где? О, нормально. Так, Apple. Здесь вот. 16:01, 21:55. Здесь удалить. Цена выхода 313. Шестьдесят один, 44. Так, это, блядь, это когда выходить. Я пока не выхожу. Так. Excel или Чё, блядь?
You have the KBW Bank Index there, obviously lifted by the earnings that we got out of JP Morgan and Citigroup. Kind of interesting. We're going to talk to the CFO of Wells Fargo a little bit later in the next hour, I believe. Those shares down about 4% on the day.
And the 10-year yield ticking lower to 1.81%. The CPI, the latest read there, missing estimates with a smaller than expected gain. However you slice it or dice it, month over month, year over year, core, it doesn't matter.
And then take a look at the S&P 500, down about 0.2% there. Only two sectors in the green, healthcare and industrials. Take a lolook at the yuan at 680, and of course the airlines here getting a rally as well off the back of those Delta earnings. Scarlett.
All right, I mentioned the CPI data. There's going to be a change to the way that the government puts out economic data overall, because the U.S. is looking, that is, the Labor Department, to change the way that it releases data. It's no longer going to make it available to reporters in what's called a lockup.
Yeah, so for the viewers who don't know, typically they allow the reporters to go into a room sequestered. They get a chance to see the report, write up the report. They're restricted from communicating with anybody, and then say right at 8:30 when that jobs data comes out, it gets transmitted, and so all of the readers out there have a full picture of what happened.
Right, the story comes out and everyone can read all the details as they're reacting to the numbers. In this new instance, the Trump administration will restrict the news media's ability to prepare these advanced stories on all this market-moving data. Again, this is according to people familiar with the matter. So when the numbers come out, you'll just have the numbers, and the reporters will be scrambling to write up the story.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, they did try to reach out to the government, obviously, about this. They didn't respond to multiple requests for comment. I mean, we've been operating this way now for decades.
Yeah.
It's not only an efficient system for journalists, but the market itself tends to rely on this dissemination as a much easier way to get the information and digest it. But right now, this means that when these reports come out, right at the top or the bottom of the hour or whenever, it's going to be up to the market participants to sort of parse through those numbers on their own.
And we should note as well, this is not the first time that the government has thought about changing the way it does this. Back in 2012, under President Obama, the Labor Department was looking to change the way that they did lockups. They would require journalists to use government-owned computers to write their stories as opposed to their own laptops from their offices. Officials at the time talked about this as a way to address security risks, but Bloomberg News and other organizations protested, and in the end, it was decided that they would keep it as was.
Yeah, and I hope we could come back to this story and get someone who can maybe talk a little bit more about it. But we had a couple of examples of this happening before, Scarlett. This was because of technical issues where the lockup technology didn't work as properly, so they just had to sort of shoot out the release. And what we got was a ton of volatility in the markets on that particular day, at least within, say, the first 10, 15 minutes. As people try to figure out if it's good or bad. Typically, you always have volatility, but it was much more pronounced on those days. So I don't know if that's a hint of what we could expect on a jobs day or on a day where we get certain agricultural reports. But it'll be interesting to see. Again, this is based on people familiar with the situation. The government hasn't actually said they are going to do this, but right now the indications are they're considering it.
They're looking into it, and I'm glad you mentioned how there have been instances where the embargo has been broken or something happened. We know as well that the president tends to get reports in advance, and we know that in the past he's kind of hinted at what the data might indicate. He tweeted once about the jobs report before the actual release of the jobs report at 8:30 a.m. and we saw markets move on that, for instance. I think he tweeted something about the jobs report being really strong. It was a positive jobs report overall, and we saw markets move, futures rise following his tweet. And of course, when the jobs report came out, it did show a strong jobs picture.
And we know that among a lot of the short-term traders, as well as a lot of the algos, there's so much jockeying for position to be sort of first, get your first trade in off that headline data. I mean, even being a second or a fraction of a second quicker than some of your competitors can mean profits of millions of dollars. So how they handle this and how they structure this, it will be interesting to see. Again, you're trying to do this across multiple agencies. We get so many reports throughout the week. It'll be interesting to see if they can pull this off in a way that's going to be equitable to everyone involved.
So if you look on my Bloomberg, this is what we check to make sure that we're seeing what's going on with economic data, EcoGo. And it's the best way to have all the updates of the latest data come out. And if they do go through with this change in making sure that reporters don't have preliminary access or advanced access to the data, then everyone's going to be staring at EcoGo for all the data without a write-through, without a complete narrative story to go along with it, and just kind of trading off of these numbers with no other context.
Мы планируем выйти в B2C.
То есть цель у вас увеличить все-таки ШПД актив на физических лиц,
Talk us through what we know so far about how advanced these considerations are to change the way that reporters have access to the economic data.
Yeah, all the issues that you have just brought up in the past few minutes are really top of mind right now. I mean, we do this every single day on the Eco team. We go to this lockup room, we receive the data. We're able to produce a story
Да сколько можно?
and readers can digest. So it's not just one
Верно, в разных регионах.
Совершенно верно.
А биржа сейчас в каких регионах как раз? Ну, сколько количество?
У нас 16 филиалов, мы присутствуем в 16 регионах, как Ваймакс еще сетью, так и оптикой. Есть крупные филиалы в Нижнем Новгороде. Мы недавно приобрели крупного оператора Мегамакс. Также мы хорошо представлены на юге, это Ростов, Волгоград. Краснодар, Краснодарский край и Зауралье. Мы сейчас биржный коннект дошла до Иркутска.
Мария, а вот ваши конкуренты, операторы для юридических и физических лиц, предлагают там сервисы дополнительные, кроме интернета, кроме там телефона.
Can you talk a little bit more about that aspect of it? Because if they're going to do this, there has to be a technological infrastructure that can handle the number of people coming to the site, the number of people refreshing every extra second. And then, of course, there's also the risk of being hacked by someone looking to get an edge up on the market.
Yes, absolutely. And government agencies are often the #1 target. We saw that last week. There was a government agency, federal government actually was hacked by an Iran-backed group, and some of those things were posted on the website. So this is not out of the norm, all these risks you're bringing up. So in a transition document in 2016, transitioning to the Trump administration, the Obama administration, Department of Labor, actually mentioned some of the risks and security risks and having to boost those and beef those up. And so with the it can be easily attacked.
Very quickly, Katya, do we know why the government is considering doing this?
Yeah, it's actually been going on for a few years, so even in the prior administration, and the issue is highlighted as costs, and the other one is as security. So the challenge is, you have a room full of journalists, and even though we're not allowed to bring in computers, laptops, phones, there is always, they're saying, a risk of data leakage. So those are the two top concerns.
So, Katya, real quick, do we have any sense that if they are going forward with this, how soon would we see this new practice go into place?
Well, it could be announced as early as tomorrow, and with that, we're expecting it could go in as soon as, that's the big question, right? Could it be implemented as soon as this week? Could it be implemented as soon as the next jobs report, which will be the first one of the year for January? So we do expect an announcement this week with more details, and that's where we could start from there and see what the future holds for these really important key economic releases.
Okay, so the Labor Department hosts these lockups for these reports lasting 30 to 60 minutes.
Yes.
The Commerce Department also issues lots of reports as well, and they would publish the GDP and retail sales numbers, and they too might be doing something on this. We don't know yet. Would private organizations do the same? Would ISM, for instance, change the way that it releases its data, or a conference board, for instance?
Yeah, this is a great question. Federal Reserve is another one that you would think of immediately because they hold lockups and they're very, they've always done that. No, as far as we know, there will be no change to lockups at other organizations, at ISM, at the Fed. This is really exclusive to the BLS, Department of Labor, and we're going to be calling other people in the minutes and days ahead to get those answers. But as far as we know right now, it's just the BLS, and this is really the same organization that's been pushing for these changes under the prior administration as well.
Okay, all right. Our thanks there to Katya Dmitrieva giving us that update on what's going on down there in Washington. From New York, this is Bloomberg.
которую опубликовала французская газета «Фигаро», папа на покое так хорошенько прошелся по своему преемнику и папе действующему. Процитирую отрывок. «Я просто не могу молчать», пишет Бенедикт. И далее еще цитата по Риа. «Целибат необходим, чтобы наш путь к Богу мог оставаться основой нашей жизни». Книга называется «Из глубин наших сердец», и написал ее Бенедикт XVI в соавторстве с кардиналом Робером Сара. Вот сейчас вы видите на экране это издание. И теперь о совпадениях, которые, конечно же, никакие не совпадения, а грамотная пиар-компания. Издательство «Француз». Фаяр, эксклюзивный отрывок появился во французской же газете, а сам этот скандал заочным спором двух пап как раз накануне презентации книги и разгорелся. Она, к слову, презентация, я имею в виду, уже завтра намечена. И в книге лично к папе Франциску Бенедикт XVI именно не обращается, то есть он его ни к чему не призывает, не обличает, но это делает вот этот соавтор, кардинал, который говорит, что не надо, я вас прошу, не допустите целибат.
Смиренно просит, как он пишет, да. Ну да, такая тема в теме получается. И дискуссия о целибате, и попытка на всем этом заработать, на вот этих церковных распрях и спорах пап. Сколько, кстати, за книгу просит?
18 евро. Это за бумажную версию. Если захотите онлайн прочитать, там будет дешевле. Интересно будет посмотреть на статистику продаж и смогут ли действительно заработать на этом скандале. Но если продолжить вот эту тему с грамотным пиаром, тем, кто и как зарабатывает деньги на условном бренде «Католическая церковь», журнал «Тайм» обращает внимание на то, что появление книги также совпало с шумихой вокруг фильма «Два папы». И в кинотеатрах его уже показали, и на «Оскар» номинируют. И в этом фильме как раз-таки художественно переосмысляется противостояние условного консерватора Бенедикта с либералом Франциском накануне как раз-таки избрания последнего новым папой римским. Ну и, как обращает внимание издание, картина высвечивает разницу в мировоззрении двух иерархов, которая в очередной раз вот в этом скандале с целибатом, собственно, и подтвердилась, и проявилась.
А еще, Алина, извини, это совпало же с выходом второго сезона «Молодой папа».
Да,
вообще
то есть
все приурочено.
Все совпало, кто кому платил и кто кого пиарит, это отдельный вопрос, не будем углубляться, но если вернуться к серьезной теме целибата, почему вообще папа Франциск допускает его отмену, частичную, подчеркну, отмену, непростая для католической церкви ситуация сложилась в Амазонии, это особый регион Латинской Америки, в деревнях, городках вдоль реки Амазонки, там настоящая проблема найти священника католического. Не хотят местные жители идти именно в священники, потому что запрещено иметь жену, детей, и для борьбы с вот этой нехваткой кадров епископы предложили возводить в священнический сан диаконов, тех, кто уже служит церкви, но у кого есть жена. Сейчас они могут проповедовать, но, например, причащать людей не могут. И в октябре 2019-го за это предложение на специальном заседании даже уже проголосовали 128 епископов. Окончательное решение должен принять папа Франциск, который по итогам вот того осеннего заседания заявил, что в принципе он все-таки за сохранение обета безбрачия, но видит в нем скорее дань традиции, а не библейскую догму, поэтому считает изменения такие допустимыми. Ну, чтобы никто вообще не запутался в этой многослойной истории, то есть одно дело это вот это противостояние Бенедикта XVI и нынешнего папы Франциска, потому что в зарубежной прессе эксперты по церкви, они в шоке от того, что когда уходил на покой Бенедикт XVI, он говорил, что он будет молча молиться, ни во что не вмешиваться. Сейчас совершенно иная картина. А вторая история – это тема целибата, как допустимо или нет его отменять. И третья история – это тот кризис, который в современном мире переживают многие религии и церковные институты, и католическая церковь в этом смысле не исключение. Для примера можно взять Бразилию, где еще совсем недавно больше 80% населения были католиками, но в последние годы их количество резко сокращается. Даже отдельные исследования на эту тему проводятся. Почему так? Почему люди уходят из лона католической церкви? И в этих вопросах преодоления кризиса и попытках вернуть церкви былую популярность и влияние папа Франциск кажется более дальновидным и более прогрессивным, чем его предшественник. Но, наверное, это не удивительно, потому что Франциск все-таки родом из Аргентины, и ему ближе, он понимает, почему и бразильцы, аргентинцы, и другие, они не хотят оставаться в лоне католической церкви. И посмотрим, время рассудит, кто из пап, вот, чья позиция более дальновидная, более прогрессивная и более действенная для такого института, как Римская католическая церковь.
Выдержат ли эти скрепы?
И чьи книги будут лучше продаваться? Спасибо. Наш международный обозреватель Алина Гребнева. Говорили не только о проблемах целибата, но и в целом о католическом кризисе в современном мире.
Расскажите нам,
заебали.
Счетная палата требует для себя новых полномочий, чтобы лучше бороться с коррупцией. Какие права могут получить аудиторы и поможет ли это наказывать взяточников?
Нужно быть известным спортсменом, чтобы стать звездой. Звездой покера! Участвуй в Spin and Go и выиграй поездку на европейский покерный тур в Сочи бесплатно на pokerstarsochi.net.
Сообщество. Буквально недавно Маск запостил в своем твиттере вот такое сообщение. И что бы это ни значило, но криптоэнтузиасты активно обсуждают это и уже растащили на мемы. Более того, наверное, многие уже видели видео с танцующим Маском на открытии производства Tesla Model Y в Китае. Если не видели, то вот кусочек. Это довольно забавно. Но и глава криптовалютной биржи Binance Чан Пенчао не смог пройти мимо этого события и отметил, что Маск в очередной раз поднял планку для предпринимателей. Однако после предложения станцевать самому отказался, заявив, что это вызовет падение курса токена его биржи BNB. Более того, эстафету с этим танцем он передал создателю эфириума Виталику Бутерину. Возможно, мы наблюдаем за рождением нового челленджа для руководителей многомиллионных компаний. В любом случае, эту новость я взяла только для того, чтобы показать вам видео с танцующим Илоном Маском. Оно того стоит. А вот цена биткоина, которая застряла в районе $7000, недавно добралась до отметки $8000. Правда, связано это с тем, что биткоин потянулся за ложным ростом капитализации Tether на $500 миллионов. Связано это с обновлением метрик на CoinMarketCap, которые ранее не считали токены USDT, выпущенные на платформе Tron, а после обновления торговые боты, вероятно, восприняли этот скачок как сигнал к покупке биткоина. И цена первой криптовалюты выросла с $7600 до $8000.
Это да.
Никак не прокомментировали данную ситуацию, а курс
Так,
биткоина в
Nokia.
последующие дни откатился на уровень в $7800. Ну и напоследок, Энтони Помпилиано предсказал биткоин по $100 000 после халвинга. Предстоящий халвинг биткоина в мае 2020 года станет очень важным событием для первой криптовалюты и многократно увеличит ее цену. Не думаю, что цена взлетит на следующий день после халвинга, но полагаю, что начиная с текущих значений она поднимется до $100 000 к декабрю 2021 года, спрогнозировал предприниматель. По словам Помпилиано, биткоин вошел в двухлетнюю фазу роста, однако волатильность монеты в этот период может достигать до 30%. А на этом у меня сегодня все. Текущий курс Дукаскоина, криптовалюты швейцарского банка Дукаскопи, вы видите на своих экранах. Более подробная информация по ссылке в описании. А меня зовут Бена. Хорошего вам дня и до новых встреч!
Сегодня у нас выпуск полный скандалов, интриг и расследований, связанных с миром криптовалют. От нового лже-сатоши до манипуляций с курсом биткоина. Так что усаживайтесь поудобнее, и мы начинаем. Начнем мы с не особо важной, но довольно вирусящейся новостью последних дней. Криптоэнтузиаст Кеннет Босек обнаружил на одной из криптоконференций очередного самопровозглашенного Сатоши Накамото. На этот раз создателем биткоина стал бывший диджей из Германии Юрк Молк. Видео Босека в Твиттер спровоцировало бурную реакцию сообщества и мгновенно стало вирусным в определенных кругах. На видео видно, как Босек подошел к Молту на World Crypto Conference и обвинил его во лжи. Также Босек в довольно агрессивной форме призывал не верить с камеру, за что Молт сорвал со стримера кепку, тем самым усугубив инцидент. Бывший немецкий диджей утверждает, что является сооснователем биткоина и владельцем 250 тысяч монет BTC, рассекает по всевозможным конференциям и даже написал книгу про биткоин. На мой взгляд, в данном конфликте не правы обе стороны, но посмотрим, чем закончится авантюра новоиспеченного создателя биткоина. Напомним, Молт не единственный, кто претендует на место создателя биткоина. Одним из самопровозглашенных Сатоши является скандальный Крэг Райт, о котором речь пойдет в следующей новости. Помните о судебной тяжбе между Райтом и семьей его бывшего партнера Дэйва Клаймана, результатом которой стало судебное решение в пользу семьи последнего. Так вот, Крейг Райт заявил, что не может выплатить родственникам своего бывшего партнера 500 тысяч биткоинов или более 4,5 миллиарда долларов и таким образом урегулировать дело, в связи с чем судебное дело будет вновь возобновлено. Напомню, что в 2018 году брат покойного компьютерного криминалиста и математика Дэйва Клаймана, которого связывают с созданием биткоина, подал на Крейга Райта в суд, обвинив того в присвоении 1,1 миллиона BTC. В иске, в частности, говорится, что Райт манипулировал деловыми документами, эмейлами и осуществлял иные мошеннические действия. Более того, Крейг не смог предоставить документы, подтверждающие его причастность к созданию биткоина. Хотя это не помешало ему заявить на недавней конференции в Лондоне, что либо я и есть Сатоши, либо он меня сплагиатил. Ну и напоследок, согласно новому исследованию Техасского университета, компания Bitfinex использовала стейблкоин USDT, чтобы искусственно завысить стоимость первой криптовалюты в 2017 году. В исследовании говорится, что биржа Bitfinex связана с компанией Tether, могла использовать USDT для манипулирования курсом биткоин. По мнению профессоров Джона Гриффина и Амина Шамса, рост цены первой криптовалюты до 20 тысяч долларов, случившийся в 2017 году, был вызван действиями не множества инвесторов, а одного крупного игрока. Авторы работы рассмотрели сделки в паре BTC USDT с 1 марта 2017 года по 31 марта 2018 года и пришли к выводу, что объемы покупок биткоин на Bitfinex увеличивались каждый раз, когда стоимость первой криптовалюты падала на определенную величину. По словам исследователей, биржа выпускала ничем не подкрепленный USDT и покупала на него биткоин для поддержания курса и пампа актива. Представители Bitfinex тут же опровергли эту информацию, назвав ее подобием исследования. Однако в октябре этого года Bloomberg опубликовала другое исследование, в котором компания Bitfinex также обвиняется в манипуляциях рынком. В нем утверждается, что эмиссия Tether совпадала с ростом биткоин в 70% случаев. На этом у меня сегодня все. Текущий курс дукаскоина, криптовалюты швейцарского банка Дукаскопи, вы видите на своих экранах. Более подробная информация, как всегда, по ссылке в описании. А меня зовут Лиза, всем хорошего дня и до новых встреч! Что ожидает курс биткоина в ближайшее время? Как полиция Австралии заработала на преступных биткоинах? И почему не стоит майнить на секретных суперкомпьютерах? Обо всем этом в сегодняшнем выпуске. Здравствуйте! Начнем с новостей о главной криптовалюте биткоине, который в последнее время держался на уровне 6-7 тысяч долларов и совершил резкий скачок до 10 тысяч к концу прошлой недели. Однако, по мнению аналитика CoinDesk Амкара Годбола, биткоин опять начал свое движение вниз. По его словам, недавний скачок курса первой криптовалюты до 10 370 долларов нельзя считать основанием для дальнейшего роста. Причиной этого биткоин вернулся в нисходящий канал. Нисходящий канал, в котором зажат биткоин, виден на недельном графике. На данный момент курс актива находится у верхней границы этого канала. Предпосылки к росту появятся, если первой криптовалюте удастся закрепиться выше уровня в $9400. Если биткоин не сможет удержаться выше указанного значения, можно ожидать продолжения снижения к нижней границе канала. Предполагаемая цель снижения – уровень $6000. Ну а вот австралийские власти получили 20-кратную прибыль на биткоинах, конфискованных по делу о незаконной торговле оружием. Согласно данным Федеральной полиции Австралии, криптовалюта использовалась в сделке по нелегальной продаже оружия на сумму в $5000 в 2016 году. А в январе 2018 года власти наконец-то смогли получить доступ к биткоинам преступникам, которые за прошедшее время подорожали на 2000% до $105 000. Криптовалюта была переведена на счет конфискованных активов Содружества наций, средства которого используются для финансирования борьбы с преступностью. Что интересно, для хранения криптовалюты власти используют вот такой бумажный кошелек, генерирующий случайный биткоин-адрес. Я, кстати, даже не знала о существовании таких кошельков. Напишите в комментариях, если знаете, как они работают. Ну и напоследок. Обвиняемого в майнинге криптовалюты на рабочем месте сотрудника Всероссийского научно-исследовательского института экспериментальной физики Андрея Рыбкина приговорили к 3 годам и 3 месяцам колонии и штрафу около 200 000 рублей. Напомним, что он при помощи самодельного софта и неправомерного доступа к суперкомпьютеру ядерного центра пытался майнить биткоины. К его сожалению, сотрудники безопасности центра довольно быстро выявили нарушение, и Рыбкин с его подельниками были задержаны. Не знаю, на что рассчитывали эти горе-майнеры, но результат, как мне кажется, был довольно очевиден. А на этом у меня сегодня все. Текущий курс дукаскоина криптовалюты швейцарского банка Дукаскопи вы видите на своих экранах. Более подробная информация, как всегда, по ссылке в описании.
Хуета какая-то.
Maybe we could see them go a little bit higher, but there's good reason we'll see a reconnection to at some point back down to the 200-day moving average for China tech shares. Mike.
Well, thanks, Abigail. Well, one group that sort of weathered this mini sell-off today was transportation stocks. Actually, the Dow Jones Transportation Average gained about 1%, but it finally broke out to the highest level since October 2018. As you can see, Delta Airlines really helped lead this rally, gaining more than 3%. Its earnings came in well above even the highest expectations. And FedEx also rallied about 2% after Amazon lifted restrictions that had prevented third-party merchants from shipping packages with FedEx ground service. But the breadth in transportation was pretty broad today. 17 of 20 stocks in the Dow Jones Transportation Average gained today. And for believers in a really ancient indicator known as Dow theory, a record close in the transportation average would be a bullish sign, because it would confirm the rally we've seen in the broader market and be a signal of more gains to come. But Renita, that transportation average, it needs about 3.5% more gains to match that record it saw in 2018, Renita.
Thanks, Mike. Optimism over the global growth outlook has driven copper higher today, and it's as high as it was back in April. This happens just after China reported higher imports and exports. Now, Commerce Bank analyst Daniel Reisman said that trade data suggests the economy in China is stabilizing. Signs of some increased risk appetite are also boosting copper today, and traders will be watching copper closely on Wednesday. China signed a partial trade agreement. That's for phase 1. Romaine?
All right, our thanks there to Renita and everyone else on the markets team. Still with us, Bloomberg News cross-asset reporter Kitty Greifeld, and out there in San Francisco, Charles Schwab Equities and Multi-Asset Strategy CIO Omar Aguilar. Omar, I want to start with you. Let's pick up where Renita left off. We're anticipating the signing of this phase 1 trade deal and presumably what's going to be the start of a phase 2 deal. How important are these trade deals, or these phases of these trade deals to your investment outlook at the moment, if at all?
Well, they have been very relevant for a while, and clearly, we are at the critical stage of signing the phase one. Now, what is important to note, though, is signing the deal, tomorrow doesn't necessarily take the uncertainty away. But it certainly has created a much positive optimism in terms of the potential of a workaround. If you recall, not too long ago, we were just, trading back and forth the potential of trade wars and, multiple levels of tariffs that were setting up in place. Right now, we're in a more constructive process where, while the uncertainty is still there, the fact that there's a layout plan for phase one and phase two has been already being priced by the market as a positive view. Now, the reason why this becomes relevant is not just because of the economic impact that this may have globally, but it also has specifically to certain sectors of the market. We are in a place where manufacturing continues to be under pressure. We haven't been completely out of the woodwork there. And therefore, having a signed deal at least provides some positive outlook for manufacturing to stabilize worldwide. And I think that's probably the most critical part of what may happen tomorrow going into the second phase.
So, Katie, obviously the big thing people have been talking about for a while, earnings season upon us, really gathering steam, starting with several banks today, most of which did good. But talk to us a little bit about, also we had Delta today, how the early earnings are sort of informing people's perception of how things might shape up.
Well, the bond traders I talked to were pretty psyched to see JP Morgan and Citi out with those results, which were especially surprising because bond volatility in the fourth quarter was not high. It was still, very slim pickings there. So it's interesting to see, those record profits or, whatever the superlative was. So that was very heartening. But I mean, moving out, it's day one of bank earnings. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the banks report. Financials had a great year last year, up around 35%. It's going to be interesting to see if, that momentum can continue. And it'll be interesting to watch it from the ETF perspective as well. We were looking at it today. Financials have had 2 straight years of outflows, even with 2019's strong performance. So it's going to be interesting to see if, this week of earnings is enough to turn the tide.
And with the banks, too. I mean, we get some of the kind of the mid-cap banks, like PNC Financial, which seem to be a little bit more interest rate sensitive, so they don't necessarily have these trading and investment banking businesses to fall back.
Right. And the thought there is that, maybe with the yield curve finally steepening a little bit, it looks like that trend is starting to establish itself. That'll help some of the banks and reach those mid-cap banks as well.
Now, I think the superlative that you're referring to is that JP Morgan had its best year on record and the best for any bank in U.S. history. Pretty impressive numbers here, Omar. When I look at the FICC revenue for JPM, rising 86% from last year, $1 billion more than what analysts had been looking for. There's a temptation to use these big bank earnings and kind of extrapolate and have it tell us something about the broader economy. But what does fixed income trading really tell us about the U.S. economy right now? Does it tell us anything?
Well, I think, the results that we have seen, particularly and the interest in the fixed income market, it only shows the fact that, despite the fact that there is all-time highs in the equity market, a lot of the flows that we have seen in retail clients and some institutions has actually been on fixed income. When you think about the opportunities that we have had, given the stability that the Fed has created, and in general central banks, there is a lot of opportunities in the fixed income market to be able to, produce returns as well. So I think, people paying more attention to the fixed income market, providing the opportunities, taking advantage of the different bets that can be done there, it is totally reflective in some of the results that we have seen lately.
Omar, beyond that, looking at fixed income going into this year, I want to go back. I mentioned inflation very mild. Do you buy this idea that the Fed is just on the sidelines, and will that reduce rate volatility for a long time, given that no one expects either a recession or rapid inflation, anything that would force the Fed's hand?
Well, the market's pricing in a full rate cut already for this year, and certainly I'm on the camp that, the Fed and other central banks will probably be waiting and see. All the data that we see in the United States shows that our economy is going to grow in the 1.8 to 2%, which is, about right for this part of the cycle and for the size of our economy. So the Fed has all the incentives to basically stay on the sideline, providing the volatility in the market stays where it is, provided that inflation continues to show, or not show is probably the right way to say it, and the fact that, we continue to see ongoing, recovery on the manufacturing side. So I think, when you put all this in perspective, clearly, the Fed doesn't necessarily want to waste any bullets for being able to weather the next recession to the extent it's coming.
So, Katie, one thing we didn't talk about today, we only have about a minute left, is what happened and we saw in the currency markets today. There was a lot of activity earlier in the day, kind of died down a little bit. But what are you hearing with regards to people's outlook for the dollar here?
Well, it's interesting now that we have trade back in focus, the outlook for the dollar seems to depend on the yuan again. In 2019, it was the tug of war between the two, and a stronger yuan usually means a weaker dollar, and that in turn means stability for emerging markets. It's all beautifully interconnected, but it's interesting to see a lot of bullish forecasts for the yuan. Jefferies in particular stuck out to me. They think that pair could reach 6-7 by summer, which would have ripple effects through markets, through commodities. So it'll be interesting to watch.
It already got through 6.9, 6.8 right now, 6.7. All right. Our thanks to Bloomberg News cross-asset reporter Katie Greifeld and Charles Schwab Equities and Multi-Asset Strategies CIO Omar Aguilar in San Francisco. That does it for the closing bell. What You Missed is up next, where we will take a deeper dive into bank earnings, including Wells Fargo. We'll be speaking with the CFO. This is Bloomberg.
Охуеть, блядь. Так, акции США. Сейчас нам надо что-нибудь купить. Что-нибудь купить. Купить. Хуй, тормоза. Что-нибудь купить.
These include, as you would suspect, previously disclosed sales practices related matters from a few years ago. So they do obscure the story from the quarter. You know, there were some really good fundamentals in the quarter, like with some of the other banks, but in loan growth and deposit growth and payments related income and debit and credit card, investment banking was stronger. The mortgage business was stronger. So a lot of the underlying drivers actually working out pretty well, but we had some idiosyncratic things unique to Wells Fargo that hit in the quarter.
You say idiosyncratic. Do you expect charges like this to continue in 2020?
My expectation is that our operating losses will look more normal in the future than they have in the recent past. But you know, we, as I said, probable and estimable is the approach that we use for recording those. And let's let some time pass and watch how it unfolds.
John, you've now been the CFO at Wells Fargo under 4 different CEOs. How would you characterize what's different and how Wells Fargo operates differently under the new CEO, Charlie Scharf?
Sure. So Charlie has had a range of experiences from other GSIBs and from Visa, as you probably know. And so he's also been a CFO, so he thinks about things in very financial terms. He's a very quick study. He's got a broad range of previous analogous experiences in the risk and control and regulatory relationship related front. So I would say very optimistic. He struck a very thorough tone today on the call, talking about all that he's learned in the risk and control front thus far, and how much work that we have to do. And I think he's got a good sense of that already. But he also made the observation about the durability of the franchises and the possibility for growing them. And so, on the one hand, I think it's an advantage, frankly, having somebody who has been through this at other firms to take the reins now as we really execute and deliver against some of our regulatory commitments. And I also think it's great to have somebody who's had the range of commercial experiences as we continue to grow our underlying businesses. So,
So as you deal, John, with those regulatory and legal issues over the course of the year, talk to me a little bit about the consumer side of the business, because consumer spending has been a huge story here. It appears that we aren't stopping our spending, and we've seen other banks get a pretty decent earnings boost because of that consumer spending. This wasn't necessarily the case for Wells Fargo in the fourth quarter. Is that going to improve, or do you anticipate it improving going forward for Q1 and beyond?
Sure. Well, the business itself, there's lots of different pieces to it, but debit card income up 6%, or pardon me, spending on debit cards from our customers, and we're the largest U.S. debit card issuer, up 6%, 4% in credit cards. We saw growth in auto loans, growth in credit card loans, growth in first mortgage loans, both those that we put on our books as well as those that we package and sell to the agency. So a lot is happening across the whole waterfront of the consumer side, and it is a contributor to revenue in our business.
All right, well, as you mentioned, there were some highlights in the quarter, and you cited positive loan growth. Having said that, you're still lagging behind your peers there. How do you envision closing that gap, particularly in consumer banking, which has been driving the results at your rivals?
Yeah, so on the loan front, you know, we have almost $1 trillion worth of loans, and we're in the same neighborhood as our largest peers. So that gap isn't so different. We sold or designated as held for sale almost $10 billion worth of loans last year. We still had some pre-crisis loans that we needed to dispose of, and have finally done that. So the quarter-to-quarter estimation or comparison of loan growth rates is probably a little bit more heads up now that we've done away with that. But our auto business is one that will probably grow faster than peers. We'll grow as fast as peers in mortgage. Our credit card business is smaller. We wish it was bigger. It should be bigger, and it will be bigger. But today it's smaller. So even if it has rapid growth rates, it's not going to generate the same types of dollars of outstandings as some of our peers as we sit here today. And on the commercial side, which is about half of our loan portfolio, there's been more growth at the higher end in the corporate and investment banking related relationships from large cap companies and other market participants who borrow from.
questions. Keep them coming. The final bar at stockcharts.com is the way to do it. What I wanted to do now is share with you a preview of the interview that I did with Ralph Acampora at his barn outside of Minneapolis. We're going to unleash this on you coming up very, very soon, and wanted to give you a quick preview. So here's a short preview of my conversation with Ralph Acampora.
I was staring at the north wall of my barn. Okay. It's plain, it's boring, it's this whitish color. Mm-hmm. It's 70 feet long, it's about 18 feet high, and just blank. And I said to myself, 2017, I'm gonna be 50 years in the business. Wouldn't it be cool if I could just put the history of the stock market? That's where the idea came from. I wanted to capture my 50 years.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show, The Final Bar. Thanks so much for joining us every weekday here. Hope you enjoyed that quick preview of my conversation with Ralph Acampora. It's going to be so exciting to share that whole interview with you. It was a really fantastic day that we spent with him, really highlighting his 50 years on Wall Street through this amazing life-size chart of the Dow that he painted on the side of his barn outside of Minneapolis. So you're not going to miss that coming up very soon. Our next segment is called Level Up. This is where we love to share with you some of the ways to upgrade your use of technical analysis of stock charts and try to become a better investor in some small way. Hopefully through the natural course of the Final Bar, we give you some ways to do that. But in particular, I wanted to make sure that you get some ideas here. So in particular, we're going to talk about moving averages. Moving averages are one of the common things I have on my charts, on all the charts that I show you. Really good starting point to that process. And that's why I look at the 50-day and 200-day. And anecdotally, having lots of conversations with investors over the years, you tend to be aware of where the price is relative to the 50-day, where the price is relative to the 200-day. A lot of methodologies, like the William O'Neill methodology, has a lot of discussion about the 50-day or the 10-week moving average. And so I know a lot of individual investors even are going to be keying off of those levels. So how do I use moving averages? Well, number one, because again, this is the average of the last 50 closing. If that line is going up, then that window of the last 50 days is increasing, which means the last 50 days continues to improve relative to the still want to be owning the stock or ETF? Does this make sense to continue to invest in it because the trend has reversed lower? So I like looking for things where the price is in an uptrend. I like to screen for things where the price is in an uptrend and has pulled back to an upward sloping moving average. Actually, it's one of the scans I use, and I want to say last Thursday or Friday, if you go back to YouTube, you'll see that was one of the things that I shared. That is it for Level Up, folks. That is how I use moving average. We need to finish the show and move to the 3 and 3. So 3 charts in 3 minutes. If they are not on your radar yet, they should be now. Let's get to it. Our first chart on the 3 and 3 is looking at moving average breadth. In this Level Up segment just now, I shared with you how I use moving averages, but I also think they're really interesting as a breadth measure. And here we're looking at the percent of S&P names above their 200-day and the percent of S&P names above their 50-day moving average. This is the one that's interesting to me at the top. This is the percent of S&P names above their 200-day moving average. We're at 84%, which is the highest it has been over the last 5+ years. I actually don't know. I haven't gone further back to see how long it's been since we've been this high, but we are certainly elevated, if not at the highest point we've been, in short-term recorded history here. So my concern is we have so many stocks above their 200-day. And when the market becomes so polarized and so many stocks are up at that one point, it tends to coincide with market tops. That's what we saw at the beginning of 2018. It's what we saw in the March of 2017. Again, it doesn't mean the market's going to zero by any means. It just means that we need a bit of a rest. And again, there's so many reasons why I think anecdotally the market could use for a pause to digest its previous gains. This is one breadth indicator telling you we're kind of at that point. Our second chart on the 3 and 3 is the Biotechnology Index, $BTK. What's interesting here is we had a bit of a sell-off here. It was testing new highs a couple days ago. This is on Friday. Yesterday, you had a big distribution, and that is completely reversed, and you see biotechs ripping to the upside. I think the direction of the biotech index might be a really good tell on the overall market environment. If something like biotech can hold up very nicely, can push the XLB higher, can push healthcare higher, I think we're in pretty good shape. I think we're okay. If this continues to break down, if this is a dead cat bounce before the next leg lower, I think we have to be a little more concerned about further weakness in stocks. So it's a really interesting chart to look at right now. The third chart of the 3 and 3 is the XLF. This is the financial sector, and we have a lot of earnings in the financial sector this week. We have Bank of America after the close today. I want to say JP Morgan, Citigroup. These are all names to be paying attention to. And I think the earnings, how those play out, how those companies do, how the stocks react to those earnings could tell you about the overall strength of financials, which could tell you about, sort of a bellwether for the market environment. We've had a downtrend in relative strength, even though the XLF has held off. So are financial stocks able to rally, and is the relative strength able to improve? I think that's one of the important things to pay attention to here. But folks, we have to end our show. Thanks so much for joining me on the Final Bar. Join me every weekday, 4 p.m. here on Stock Charts TV. For Stock Charts in snowy Redmond, Washington, this is Dave Keller. Have a great afternoon.
Good day, everybody. It's Greg Schnell, and I am here with the December 31st, 2019 review. With following the short-term trends. I'm not sure if it's me or just because of the computers that are involved in the market, that the trends seem to be faster and quicker but roll over more often. So one of the goals I have for the upcoming year is to try and stay with those trends a little bit more, but get in earlier and out quicker. And it doesn't mean trade more, but I would just say wait for the right setups and then hit them hard. So let's today we're going to talk about the one that just set up this week, and it's gold stocks, and they're starting to rock into the new year. Everything looks pretty well. So to find any of my blogs, I'm just going to post this up here. And on gregschnell.com, you'll also find more information. I'm trying to build that out right now as we speak. And then contact information. You can reach me at any one of these. New update at gregschnell.com, on Twitter at SchnellInvestor, or on the website gregschnell.com. So today's agenda, first of all, Happy New Year. And then gold stocks are breaking out, and we want to go through a review of the gold names. So to do that, we're going to jump over into Safari, GDX, there we go. So this is the chart for the gold miners, and for the subscribers, we've been talking about it for 3 or 4 weeks already. What we were looking for was this push back above the 10-week. So you can see all through here, we've been below the 10-week moving average, and 2-3 weeks ago now, we had a push above the 10-week, and that looked really nice and strong. And then 2 weeks ago, it just rolled back over, held around the 10-week, and then took off last week. And this week, continuing to build on those highs. Week, and then took back off to the upside. So quite bullish in general. I the indicators here are for gold miners. So let's go look at the indicators for gold just so you can see that on the charts. And one of the things I've been pointing out to the subscribers was that we had this really silent volume in May, and then we also had really silent volume here in through the holidays. And one of the points to be made, not so much that, yeah, we had a holiday week or whatever, but out of the last 5 weeks, look at how quiet the volume has been. And when we look across the charts, typically that low volume has been places where we started rallies from. And so, you know, it just looked to me like we were all set up for this, and now we're starting to move. Last week was the big push out of it, I think, started on just after Christmas, and now continuing to rocket higher. The point I want to make is everything looks set up here to continue. The PPO, I would like to see this cross up, obviously. That would be a little bit more bullish. And we can see that the gold price here, the ETF for gold, has the scooter ranking up in this top area for most of 2019. And if we look back through 2017 and 18, that wasn't how it was. And so this is a new phenomena. Yet. So that would be something that I would like to see more of, is that it actually starts to take off against gold, against the S&P, and if it was to starting to outperform a little bit more, that would be helpful. On this gold miners chart here, I don't have that SPX ratio in here, so let's just go back to the gold chart, change the ticker symbol, and just see how GDX compares to the S&P 500. And what we see here is it broke out to new 52-week highs in 2019, pulled back, and now if it was to start to break out again, we could be up near 3-year highs, and that would be extremely bullish. So I like the fact that the gold miners are outperforming gold. They're behaving better than gold. We're seeing it on almost every perspective for the markets. The other two areas that are interesting is silver, which is SLV. And what we see on SLV here was obviously a big thrust of pullback, and now it started to run up as well, and the scooter ranking is up around 90 for silver, and it's turning up above 0. So I really like how this big long uptrend is continuing. That's just very bullish and a place we want to continue to watch for. When we look at SIL, which is the silver miners, this is even more bullish, and the reason for that is it's actually already broken out to new 52-week highs, even though silver hasn't, and we're up around 2-year highs, going on 3-year highs here. So this is really positive performance here. We're at 33.12, and it's 33.15 was the previous high. Way back here. An intra-week high this week actually broke through it, so we're up at 33.75. So we're at new 2-year highs here. You know, new highs usually beget more new highs, and that's what we'd be watching for. We want to see that continue to break out. So all of the backdrop is really positive for this trade to be set up. What I want to do now is just jump into the actual gold stocks and talk about how to trade them. And we've got a few things that we could do. We can either I always like to sort them either on strength or what's on moved recently. So if we wanted to sort it on what moved recently, we could just go intraday, and we would pick whatever, let's say 1 week, and that would tell us all of the stocks and how they're sorted. And just for the purposes of this example, I did it previously already, but I'm going to resort it. We'll sort it on Scooter in a minute here, because this has a lot of very low priced stocks that aren't exactly what we want to talk about for large cap investors. So what we can do is just by organizing here on this, we can put a sort order on the names in front here. Now we want to sort on the Scooter ranking, and what are the top names out here. And you can see on 1 week here, some of these are moved up 9 and 10%. Pretty nice little healthy moves. But the point I want to make is look at how many of these have a very strong scooter ranking up in the high 90s. And, you know, a lot of people are talking about Apple and tech stocks and all that. These are also doing very, very well and are a real opportunity because I like the speed they move. They can move 40% relatively quick in a couple of months. So anyway, 2 full pages of stocks with a scooter ranking above 90%, so behaving better than 90% of the market out there. I think that's a real positive and a good place for us to look heading into 2020. As I mentioned, we saw the scooter price action start to change in behavior, where it was never up in the top for a couple of years, and then over 2019 it spent most of the time up in one of the better higher areas of the scooter ranking. So all of a sudden these gold stocks are starting to behave differently on the big picture. So let's sort this chart list based on these strong scooter rankings, and the way we do that is we have to go to edit list and we have to get rid of the numbers that are on here first. So we're going to go into edit mode and we scroll down to the bottom, and then we select them all and we just say remove the numbers from all the ones that are selected, and so that's good. So now this number in front here has disappeared and we just have the ticker symbols and names. What we do from there is we go into summary mode, and the reason we have to go into summary mode is so that we have some reasons to sort. In edit mode, all of these other fields are gone. So here's SCTR ranking is the way we want to sort it. And again, this is the intraday price action, choppy, whatever. The important thing that we want to get here is just let's go look through the charts and find the nice charts that we're more interested in. And with that, what we do is we scroll all the way to the bottom. Now that we could have chosen close or percent change or whatever. We're going to choose SCTR ranking. And now we scroll to the bottom and we number in sorted order. And by doing that, that allows us to change this list and put the strong ones first. So with that, we can click in on here and then we can go look at view all, which is 10 per page. And the perspective I'd like you to get is how many of these stocks have a really strong scooter ranking and how they're starting to behave much better. So this stock is almost at 2-year highs, or this ETF. Really nice. Silver miners, again, this one's one of the strongest ones, breaking out to new highs here. What's not to like when they're just starting to break out? Junior gold miners ETF, this one's starting to thrust up. Wouldn't take much to get to even higher highs, and if it gets above this 42, we're going to go all the way back to 3-year highs, going on 4-year. It's crazy levels up there. I like the PPO turning up above 0. This is a very positive place on the charts, and with that, starting to get that big up thrust, and that's exactly what we'd like. I'm going to scroll past the rest of these ETFs and start to get into some more specific stocks. But here's Silvercorp Metals, and this one just continues to push higher. Nice high level here on the PPO. You know, it can oscillate up here and do just fine, but I think if we're just starting our new thrust, this is going to hold us up well. I would do one thing on this chart. And what we have is something that's really outperforming the S&P 500. And so for me, I want to draw this line on this chart just as a reference and maybe even give it a little room to wobble. But I don't want it to start breaking down. And if it did start to break down, I want to take gains in this name and not let them break apart. So if we look back here, there's a really good trend line here. When it broke, it spent 6 months or whatever, 4 months consolidating and then took back off to the upside. I don't want to give up all of the gains from this whole run here. So just putting a slope on here so that we've got something to work against. But once something that was outperforming stops outperforming, I just want to move along and pick something else to own at that point in time. So here's another ETF. Here's Lee Gold Mining. This one's just pushing up to new highs here. Very, very nice to see. I like the way that's working out. Wesdome Gold, this one's been gorgeous since the middle of 2018. At $2 to $10, it's been 500%. Really, really nice. Pan American Silver. This one's just breaking out to new 5-year highs. What's not to like? That one's on its way. Sibanye Gold. This has been a river higher for a while. It looks like every week it makes a new high. Really nice to watch. Actually, the only thing I was going to say on that one, let's go back there just briefly. Sorry about the scrolling. Notice how this PPO has a nice big uptrend here. If that's going to start to break, or this relative strength line is going to start to break, then I probably want to leave this stock. So I'll diagram that out with some annotations here. You have an uptrend in momentum, and it's been going on for a while. You know, that's over a year long. When you get these big year-long uptrends, they're a good place for us to think about leaving. Even this one in here was only 6 months, but you know, when you get these big uptrends and they start to roll over, it's a much better idea just to take profits and let somebody figure out, you know, how much farther it can go. And even in this case, if you had held this up a little bit higher up where this hump is and tried to do it a little quicker, you know, you would have missed this final surge, but you still would have captured the majority of the move and might have moved on to something else that was surging. So I think it's important to at least know when you'd exit these winners so that you're not left holding them after they roll over. And I think on my Twitter feed, I was reading somebody who said they had lost over $1 million in the stock market last year, mostly on marijuana names. And the hard part about that is you know, I don't know how many times I spoke about it, but the one thing in the marijuana names was a Weed Wednesday was October 17th, 2018. That literally marked the high for the ETFs, and it kept dripping lower, and some of the names were still holding up, but a lot of the names were falling away. And as they were falling away, the problem is people kept putting more and more belief into the fact that they were about to turn around. And I saw somebody tweet out yesterday, Chicago's legalizing marijuana January 1. They should all start to run because it's a city of 12 million people or whatever. That isn't how the stock market thinks. There's more than enough marijuana to go around right now, with all of the operations trying to get to massive size in terms of growing and not enough market. So I think it's more important that we keep track of these trends, and then we want to sell winners near the highs, and we need to find a way to take money off the table. And it might not be at the absolute high, but we just do not want to get stuck owning something rolling over. And gold can run for a while and then fail. Well, when it fails, we just want to leave. We don't need to marry these names. We just need to own them while they're winning. And so here's Equinox Gold. This is breaking out to new 3-year highs. Just did that last week. It's holding up here around $10. There's a nice uptrend in momentum here. Let's just see if we can do this. Yeah, annotate's turned off because I have to go up here and there's something I need to do. Let me read that. First, turn off the auto size charts option right here. There we go. And now what that allows us to do is now I can go in and I can annotate this chart. And by doing that, you can see this uptrend is in play here. We also have an uptrend in momentum. And if that uptrend starts to break, this one isn't as obvious, but if these uptrends start
research.
Leave here and move out of these names now. The other thing we would do is we could take off these last 2 years, because you could see there was no real trading volume even on a weekly basis, and that's why the chart's so
I'm trying to find where
a real chart and better price action, all that kind of thing.
What can I buy for my
for my thing here is to give ourselves a method to exit the stock or the ticker symbol. And when we do that, I think the biggest thing for
$600
for us is to try and set it up, not so much that we get greedy, but we get the majority of the move. And one of the easiest ways to do that is when relative strength stops or momentum rolls over and starts to break big long uptrends. This Taranga Gold is a beautiful chart. Looks like it's heading higher here.
Melee.
Broke through
Melee.
$6. It's now on its way to $7. That's a 2-week move or 3-week move. That's really nice. It's got lots of firepower in here. It's already up 4% on the week and looks good to keep going higher. Nova Gold Resources. This one just broke out to new 5-year highs and it's pausing this week. Nothing wrong with that. Again, I'd do the same thing here. Let's annotate. What we want to
Wow.
do is just make sure that this uptrend in relative strength
It's
stops.
interesting. VFC.
As long as
VFC.
it continues, we want to hold it. And if it doesn't continue, so back over here is another example. And it's easy in hindsight.
Worry
I probably
Financial
could've put it here, then we would have got kicked out.
Financial
But
Group.
the idea being, you don't want to make it too hard for you to get out, but you do want to exit near the top. In this case, we're clearly on a spike here. We've just taken off, but we don't know if that's going to continue for 10 weeks or 2. So as long as everything's working, that's pretty good. And now we also have this kind of trend over here. So want to keep track of all of these, and if they start to break down, especially as a group, if they all start to break down, then it's a nice time to say, you know what, the move in gold is over. Let's go find something else to own. Another ETF. Here's Silvercrest Minerals. This one's just been grinding higher for so long. What a nice move up to $10 here. First Majestic Silver Corp. This one's just starting to break out to new 3-year highs on this week. That's very, very bullish. Everything turning up. Scooter ranking nice and high. Again,
Martin
performance continues, but
Rita
that's good. Here's
Material.
Coeur d'Alene Mines, and what do we see on this chart? Again, a nice uptrend here, starting in May at $2.78 to $8. These are huge moves. And the important thing to keep in mind here is this could run for a long time, right? In 2016, this took off quite a ways. It's getting going here, but if we started to lose our relative strength outperformance, then we would just leave the stock. And again, simple trend lines under it can help us manage the trade to try and capture maximum revenues. Here is another stock breaking out to new 5-year highs. It doesn't usually break out to new 5-year highs and roll back over. Now this one might do that, but again, it looks to me like we're just getting started in this move, and a lot of these stocks are making new highs. So as they start to do that, that's very bullish. Here's Yamana Gold, and this is just starting to break out here. This is really nice. So I like the look of that one. Pan American Silver, look at how strong this is, just popping to new 5-year highs. Very comfortable. Detour Gold, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Detour was getting bought out by Barrick Gold. So this one might just kind of grind sideways in here. We'll leave that one. Here's gold mining, and what we see on gold mining, this one is starting to make higher highs and higher lows. It's only $1 stock, but I like the PPO turning up around 0. That looks very good to me. Shiny. Aura Minerals. This one, thinly traded, right? So I don't really want to talk about it. Stocks at 3,500 shares per week. So just a little too thin for me. Rubicon Minerals. This one's only 200,000 shares a week. Not really a trend we want to invest in, and if it was to take off now, I think I'd let somebody else own it. We could zoom in on the chart and shorten it up, but it's still just a gentle downtrend, and I think there's other names that are more obvious here. So Alistair Corp, this one's just heading higher and higher, higher highs, higher lows, and as gold continues to outperform, what's not to like? I think this chart's generally setting up for nice price action. I want to denote one thing here. So what we see on this chart, the relative strength is heading up nice and high. Nothing wrong with it, and we just want to see that continue. Notice how the PPO is sideways. So it's continuing to hold up here, but it's way up at 10%. Some of these charts will be down around 1 or 2% in terms of momentum. This has a 10% read, so until it starts to get below 5, I think we can assume that the stock is still strong enough. The clue for me to leave would be this relative strength line breaking on something that's working this well. So something that was outperforming, stopping outperforming. I just want to move along and let somebody else own the stock. Okay, Nova Gold Resources. I think the critical thing here is, again, new 5-year highs, and we're seeing this across numerous names. It doesn't seem to me that's where you'd end the story. Normally what happens is we have a lot of stocks fail to participate, a few still break out. That's not what we're getting right now. We're getting across the board pushes up into this new high space. Continental Gold, this one's dribbled sideways for 4 weeks. I don't know if there's a buyout here or not. But, you know, trying to get through previous prior highs, very close to 5 years. Osisko Mining, this one's just breaking out, very bullish. Today it was up and pulled back a little bit. Again, they're not all going to go up every day. Even this one had a 4-day pullback here in December. But what a big move. And again, you know, which side of the trade do you want to be on here? I wouldn't be shorting this stock just because it has a down day today or a reversal bar today. If it consolidates up here before pushing on to higher highs, that's kind of a normal thing in the process. Another ETF, again, this Silver Trust, all of these are turning up. Look at the PPO turning up above zero. Very, very bullish. Gold Resource Corp, new 52-week highs. Nice uptrend in relative strength and in the momentum. Scooter ranking up around 90, and as long as these continue, you know, draw a trend line under price, draw a trend line under the relative strength, trend line under the momentum, and if they stop performing, then we want to move along. Okay, just go through a few more names here. Here's Torex Gold. You know, choppy a little bit here. It's been consolidating sideways for 8 weeks. I'm surprised it didn't get more of a jump on the recent gold spike. Fortuna Silver, this one's really starting to pop. Again, this chart had been in a big downtrend, but the difference we see now is the PPO was above zero, pulled back, and is now resuming its move above zero. Should it fail right here, you just want to exit this trade because we've got this big overhead line. Let's just draw that in. Got this big overhead line sitting in here, and if the stock can't break through it, I'm looking for a high close. This is kind of the highest close going back on the trend line, so I think that's probably a better place to park it. But the right answer is on all of these, if the stock is going to break through this resistance area and keep going, PPO moving back above zero, that's a very bullish place on the chart. And, you know, it's starting to make higher highs and higher lows. So what we want to see now, obviously, we had a higher high, a higher low. We'd like to see another higher high, and this would really start to thrust the stock up. Momentum is now above zero. Okay, hopefully that's given you some ideas of different ways to analyze these names. Here's Caledonia Mining trying to get through to new 3-year highs. PPO momentum line looks good. Scooter, or the full stochastic. I don't usually use trends on full stochastics, right? This is trending up, but look at it just chop in here. What we really want to see is relative strength compared to the S&P 500. So far, everything on this chart is okay, and if it all started to turn down here, then I would leave the trade, but it looks good so far. First Majestic Silver, this one's breaking out to new 3-year highs. And again, I own some of these names. I don't want to tell you which names I own, but the point is not so much that whether or not I own them. And usually what I'll do in this case is I'll go in and buy a basket of 5 or 10 of them, knowing some will outperform the others, and the ones that stop outperforming, I'll just move along and pick some new ones. But I feel like the move is just getting started. The US dollar is just starting to break down. So all of these things add up to me to kind of suggest staying on board and not trying to outthink it. So hopefully with that, I've given you an idea. I mean, we're still only at the, scooter rankings of 95. There's another 3 or 4 pages here. So maybe I'll just go back and show you the actual summary list of these gold stocks. But these are really, really strong names, and they continue to outperform. So hopefully you can add them into your portfolio and find some things to work on. For my subscribers in 2020, I'll be doing a lot more work to help set up portfolios and show them how I manage trades, both for dividend and for growth, commodity type investing, all of that kind of thing. If you'd like to know any more about that, you can find it over at gregschnell.com. To wrap up, in 2020, I think we're going to have a much more challenging year. There's starting to be some signals in the bond market that aren't signals I like to see. That doesn't mean it's imminent, but it means it's something that we should focus on. Thanks everybody for listening.
"2019 has been a wild year here at Real Vision and in the financial markets. Despite the rise we've seen in geopolitical tensions around the world, extreme monetary policy, and the growing murmur of incoming recession, the S&P hit all-time highs. So who knows what's in store for 2020? It may not be anything like 2019, but there will be a lot of talk about China. And if anybody has a good guess as to what's going to happen in 2020, I imagine one of the guests on Real Vision over the past year was right, and only time will tell who. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the most important themes we've looked at and covered over the course of 2019, and it's all going down on this week's episode of The One Thing. What's going on, investors? Drew here. This year, we've covered a lot of different topics related to the financial markets. We've talked about geopolitics, monetary policy, equities, and even psychology. Today, we're going to highlight a few of the most important themes that we covered on this show. To start things off, we have to talk about process. How you think about and structure an investment thesis is critical to success, regardless of market environment or track record. We talked about it last February on an episode called Trust the Process. Here's a refresher explaining the importance of process.
It's easy to maintain a conviction. It's harder to maintain investors.
Right.
To those that are committed to the excellence of research in this business and ideas in this business, we check and recheck our thesis all the time. It's a constant endeavor, 24/7, 7 days a week. In being more public with your views also invites a new level of scrutiny and discourse. And that discourse only makes you better at what you do.
Another process that's not as common but should be universally respected because of how much work is involved in it is short selling. We've had some of the best short sellers in the world on Real Vision, and what you'll realize with all of them is that they're truly the best detectives. Check out this clip of this amazing interview with Mark Cohodes and Grant Williams.
I have done the work here of the SEC, the DOJ, the FDA. I've helped Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas not cover this shit, private insurance companies, the VA, so vets don't get injected with this poison, and on and on and on. And the government and the regulators sit there with their heads literally up their ass.
If there's one common idea that we keep coming back to, it's how important it is to actually have a defined process. Because if you have a defined process, then you're not gonna fall into that trap of just trying to chase results. If you're just trying to chase results, that's how you end up buying at the top and selling at the bottom. You lose money. You're always gonna wanna join the latest fads without the least bit of understanding of why that fad exists and how it's even making money. So the point is, at Real Vision, no matter how much we're focused on forecasts and opinions, we're probably even more interested in process.
So that's the first building block. Have a process. In order to be successful investing, trading, or really in anything, discipline is crucial. We got some advice from legends like Stan Druckenmiller that self-awareness is critical to the execution of your investment process. The most successful know when they're hot and when they're cold. The next step is applying your process. And the talk of trade war between the US and China has forced every investor to apply their process to the issue at hand. Markets have been trading based on news releases about the progression of trade talks, positive or negative.
Yes.
We've been on the trade war story since this show started, but here's a clip of that back in September.
Unfortunately, I see these dynamics playing out very, very similarly. And one of the alternate takes, right? So there's kind of, I would argue, two primary narratives, three. One is China is the future, right? This is the Joe Biden articulation, which is difficult to square with many of the facts on the ground, but certainly remains, I would argue, kind of the consensus view. The second one is that no, China is not the future, but it's going to manage it similarly to Japan, right? That it's going to have a step down in growth, that it's going to age and therefore have deflationary pressures, and probably an appreciation of the yuan as they seek financial power and global power in terms of the financial sphere as compared to the manufacturing or outright growth. And then the third one is kind of the China collapse model.
So we may not see the collapse of the CCP like Mike said, but there's certainly a lot of factors at play, one of them being the 2020 election. But the election is just one of many factors that will come into play in 2020. On top of that, there's the trade war, problems with big tech and VC in Silicon Valley, and of course the continuation of extreme monetary policy. And through all of that, the noise of incoming recession continues to get loud. Here's a clip of Raul from Recession Watch.
But for me, the balance of probabilities lies on getting that recession call right. This cycle has been as similar to the 90s cycle, the other longest cycle in history. It has been incredibly similar. That had those two false lows like this one had, and then eventually it broke. It feels like we're there now. It feels that people don't trust what they're seeing because the equity market's at its highs. The equity market was at its highs in 2002. It was pretty much at its highs in 2007. So don't trust the equity market. Trust the bond market. The bond market's the thing that tells you the story, and it's been screaming to you that the global economy is slowing down fast and the US is part of it. And I think that is the story that I think many people don't understand. Most people watching Real Vision have not been historically bond market guys. It's been an equity world out there, and to shift your mindset and to understand the opportunities across asset classes gives you the real edge that it takes to make money in a really complicated situation like a recession.
So getting the recession call right is not only a way to avoid disaster for your portfolio, it's also a potential opportunity to profit. So whether a recession comes in 2020 or the longest economic cycle in history continues to run, we'll be here to break it down. So whether you want to add a few tools to your investing toolbox or you just want to keep up with what's going on in financial markets, stick with us at Real Vision. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you in 2020.
Так. Так. Блять. Все-таки внизу надо, да? Подожди. Продажи. Ну, хуй знает, по идее должна следить. Так, надо еще найти один пункт. Потом пойдем смотреть. Это был брокер. ЛГН. График вообще не говорящий. Смысл покупать на растущем? Ой. Я уже плохо соображаю. Леки. Ну вот и как он себя поведет тут? Так, ладно, сейчас поставим. Так, это я поставил. Блядь, до нашего рынка так и не добрался. Так, код ВТБ. Чё, блядь? Так. Спать бы пойти. О, блядь. Мечел. Так. Вейп, квик. Не дает ничего ставить, сука. Так, ладно. Митчелл. Все, нормально? Так, блядь. Так. Блять. БС вообще не захватывает Квик. Ну и где, блядь, зарегистрирована, где она? Так, блядь. Заявки и стоп-заявки это разное, что ли? Восемьдесят шесть и 7 меньше либо равно 0,5. Короче. Спать.